sponsored by the Securities and Exchange Commission of Nigeria.
Welcome back to this special dialogue where we discuss success stories in Nigeria's agricultural transformation program led by, of course, the President of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, and of course, the Ministry of Agriculture. And joining me to co-moderate this session, of course, is the Director General of the Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission, Aramaote, and I will just hand it over to you, DG.
Mr. Okoloko, we hear you plan to list on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Maybe you can tell us about it.
Yeah, I think now that we have our first plant running at 100% of its designed capacity, our next goal is to debottleneck the same plant to increase its nameplate capacity by 50%, which is what plants do once they've reached an optimal level. And then after that, that exercise will start in 2013, next month, starting in January. We also have signed a joint venture agreement with a new partner, Mitsubishi Corporation, and that whole exercise is to build a plant that is twice the size of the existing capacity. It is,
right.
It is actually in raising equity, to participate and build a second plant that we now intend to actually achieve an IPO where we will raise the monies for that. This IPO will take place within the next 15 to 18 months.
So we expect to see Notere listed on the stock exchange in 2014.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm sure the CEO of the stock exchange is happy to hear this.
Well, we look forward to speaking to him at some point too.
Maybe we should have Mr. Benga Oyebode, who is a chairman of Okomu, that's already listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, share with us their story.
I think the Okomu oil palm story is extremely similar to what Atedos told us about Presco. The only real difference between Okomu and Presco is really more from a size perspective and from the age of the company. Okomu was privatized in 1990, if you take the fact that we've doubled capital once and we've done a bonus issue 2-for-1, Okomu remains today one of the best performing stocks on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So a 50 kobo share in Okomu in 1990 today is priced at approximately, and I did check my Bloomberg this morning, was 35 naira. You also have to put in perspective that last year Okomu paid 5 naira per share dividend.
Right.
One of the highest dividend plays of any listed company in Nigeria. But I think the real success of Okomu, is the fact that we've been essentially able to do as well as oil palm plantations in Southeast Asia. So today we have yields of approximately 17 tons per hectare, which is essentially what the Malaysians are doing. We have extraction rates of essentially 21%, which again is what the oil palms mills in Malaysia are doing. So again, to feed into essentially what the Honorable Minister said earlier on today, the fact is that with all the problems of the Nigerian oil palm industry, you actually have success stories of companies that essentially, whether they be in Nigeria or in Malaysia, are doing as well.
Right.
And I think that that's a critical piece. I think the only other thing that I'd like to mention is the fact that years ago, right next to us in Okomu, we had the Oseriva plantation, which was a Michelin rubber plantation. Michelin did a study that said the very best yields in the world came from Oseriva, at which point we then decided to plant rubber. I can assure you today we've done 7,000 hectares of rubber. We have 10,000 hectares of oil palm. But because a lot of our expansion has come through offshore loans, for instance, we did a 10 million euro loan from DEG. We've been able, using our rubber exports, and think about it this way. This is a Nigerian company that sells all its produce at farm gate at world market prices. And I think that's unique, and that's the signal that I see in the transformation agenda. That's essentially what the minister has talked about. The fact that agriculture in Nigeria is, you can price your goods at world market prices, you can pay off foreign loans, and you can expand your mills, which essentially you buy for in foreign currency. So those, for me, are the key elements of the success of a company like Okomu.
All right, we'll come back to you. And of course, we will also want to hear about what has enabled this growth. Everyone has, of course, talked about very interesting success stories. But I want to, first of all, hear from you, Kola, because yours is it's quite different. In a sense, you are putting private equity money to work in impact investing. Talk to us about the small companies, the small individuals, if you like, that you're dealing with and the success stories that we are finding there too.
Sure. Well, first off, fundamentally what Doreo does as an impact investor is we invest, utilize the private sector to solve what we believe is fundamentally Nigeria's most serious challenge. That is spiraling youth unemployment. Today in Nigeria, every 8 seconds, a young person comes out into the workforce, and out of 3 of them, 2 of them will not find a job. So we recognize agriculture, hands down, is that job creation engine for Nigeria, and under the leadership of Mr. President and the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, now is never a better time. And we've never seen a better time to invest in agriculture.
But tell us a bit about success stories, because we were chatting earlier and you told me some interesting stories about how some individuals have made significant growth in their returns in investing in this sector.
Well, what we do is we invest in businesses that increase the profitability of smallholder agriculture, because we fundamentally believe that's the fastest way to create jobs in Nigeria. So a way that we do that is through a model we developed called an agricultural franchise. Basically, what we do is we franchise grassroots level farm organizations. And by doing that, we are able to de-risk them and get them access to credit. That access to credit, coupled with appropriate training and access to a package of best practices, coupled with all the inputs, has enabled some of our farmers to attain yields 3 times the national average. Final step that we're able to deliver to them is get them access to premium markets. Now, this access to premium markets enables them to attain profitabilities, quite frankly, unheard of. We have one farmer this year, Ibrahim Mustafa. He's got a little 1.1 hectares in Kaduna. He attained profit of over $1,000 per hectare, which is really unprecedented for a smallholder farmer. So this model we expect to scale up probably by 2030. Our expectation is, as a company, to create somewhere in the range of about 10 million jobs via agriculture.
Fantastic. And of course, that will add to what we've heard has already happened, 2.2 million jobs already over the last 1 year. But now let's talk a bit about some of the enablers. Of course, we do have a very robust transformation agenda being put through now. And I want to hear from the panelists how that has enabled the growth, especially within the last 1 year. And of course, what you can see, maybe I'll start with you, Mr. Jerry, to get a sense of what you can see, the way this program is being pursued, the impact it's likely to have in the agri space.
Following on what Kola has just said, what happened in Lagos recently was Okada drivers were now being reduced in number. And in Igbodu, where we are, where the horticultural, I've told you about the first one, but the one I'm into now is the horticulture one, which is in Igbodu village in Ekpe. We discovered that we could not find workers. They all preferred to go and ride Okada. We had to go all the way to Benue State to bring people to come and work there. Now, with the situation on the Okadas now, we've discovered that a number of people around Ekpe, young men, they are in their 20s and 30s, they are now coming to look for work. What we have done is to give them land around, we plow it for them, provide them the input, enter into agreement to buy it off them at the end of the day. We have 105 of them right now.
Right.
Because one of the biggest problems in actual farming and backbreaking is the land preparation.
Right.
Get that done for them, give them the inputs, the best seeds, the best fertilizer and all that, and we buy it off them. These are tomatoes, lettuce, cabbage, and so on and so forth.
And I imagine you have some projections. With that model in place,
yes,
what kind of growth rates are you anticipating for your company?
I believe that in itself will create a situation where we will double our production within a period of 12 months. And in the process as well, we will now discover that because of the way they have been brought in, not just left on their own, the quality and the quantity in terms of what is the yield, that too is extremely important, and therefore the profitability encourages other people, because what is happening now, is just a drop in the ocean.
Right.
But the more you do it, the more they're able to tell people stories, to the extent that some of them may end up telling these stockbrokers to come and join them in the farm.
Well, we look forward to that day. DG, do you have a few comments? And maybe we can pass on to some of the other panelists.
I do. I just, as I listen to the panelists, one thing, a few thoughts. One of them was the quality of the products, and that there's some advantage that we're no longer importing some of these products and that we can get them here. Mr. Atedo Peterside talked about shelf life. The other thing is yields. One of the success factors is that they're operating at yields that are world-class yields, and therefore they're able to obtain world-class prices as well. But I think what is exhilarating is that young people are very, very interested in this sector. Yeah, that's what it's.
Absolutely.
Those are some
and
of the thoughts. Yes.
If I can just hear from you, Atedo, I want to hear, because I know you are also very linked to what we're seeing in the privatization of the power sector, and how will you assess the agri-transformation agenda that is being pursued right now?
Okay, I think the best way, and this might be music to the minister's ears, but the best way usually that investors respond is to decide to invest again. So let me just summarize the investment plans of Fresco and its parent as I know them. I mentioned that, they had this original plan, the original estate, which currently is about 12,000 hectares cultivated. Now, they have just acquired land. And when people talk about land in Nigeria, they assume that you have to go and meet a governor and start begging for land. No such thing. Because if you want land close to where you are, so it's easier for you, Fresco has just acquired additional 14,400 hectares on their own privately. That is not going to a governor, buying it from, that shows you that it's a business, as opposed to some looking for subsidy or anything. They just bought 14,400 hectares, which they intend to use to go into rubber. So that the plan is that in the medium term, they're going to ramp up the oil palm to 20,000 hectares and then have 10,000 hectares of rubber. Now, you only do that if you think that the direction of policy is right. But there's one major concern. I mentioned this steady growth in terms of if you're cultivating, you're increasing every year by 1,000 hectares or 2,000 and so on. And I'm talking about getting to levels of 20,000 for palm. Some things can disrupt all that. Government policy, short-term, giving somebody a waiver or something, or import duty, flood the market with palm oil. Those things frighten investors.
Yeah.
But if they can see their way long-term consistently, that investment will continue. And it's not just Fresco, because what I've described, all of it is around Fresco.
Right.
The parent company, SEAT, simultaneously has moved across to River State to set up like a second Fresco.
To a similar plant.
Yeah, this time
they're
taking over Rizon Palm
from
River State government. And they're investing in all that. So again, they're going to have several thousand hectares developed and redeveloped as well.
Sounds pretty exciting. I just want to hear from you, Alhaji Tafida, because clearly the transformation is not only in crops, like I mentioned. You are focused on beef. I want to hear about how the policy of the government has enabled the growth of your business.
When the transformation agenda is rolled out, we have seen something that has always been worrying us, as if we had a solution of it. Because the first problem of every livestock farmer in the world is canopy. When I say canopy, I mean bush and heavy woods area where they allow tsetse flies to develop and stop the farmer enjoying rainy season grazing. All these places will be turned into farmland. During the harvesting period, for every plant that produces maize, single clump of maize, 30 to 40% of it is a stock. That particular stock, we are ready to mill it and use the comb of the maize after removing the seeds and grind it into a powder and produce feed that can keep the cattle farmer in one place without migrating from one area to the other. And when the production and milling has been done of cassava, the cassava flour is taken out. The back is our product. When the palm oil is milled out, the palm kernel cake is our product. Right now, I have 2 trailers on the way every weekend to go to Enugu.
Yeah.
One to carry offals from Enugu Brewery, the other to go to Onitsha and carry PKC. That's what we use to mix with our rice, grass, or whatever you call it, maize, corn, to produce the feed. And the fertilizer man, he does not know that we have what we call urea leak. I don't know whether they are going to take over from us and produce it scientifically, but now we are doing it. We are diluting
Challenge
the
to you,
urea.
GK. We'll come to you maybe after
We
the
are
break.
diluting the urea and reducing the salinity to about 40%. Then we dry it. We give the cattle to lick. And that keeps them to have a lot of water in their body and give them nitrogen to a level that they can walk 2 kilometers without losing weight.
Right. So interesting developments we're seeing there. And clearly, transformation is on the agenda in Nigeria's agri sector. Clearly, we're hearing a few success stories here. But when we come back, we want to hear a little more about the challenges and, of course, some of the things that still need to be done to take this transformation to the next level.